Hey everyone, PushingUpRoses here, and welcome back to another rousing episode of That Time on Murder, She Wrote, the only show on the internet that features Murder, She Wrote breakdowns told by me. Today I am discussing another highly requested episode called My Johnny Lies Over the Ocean from Season 1. The title is inspired by My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, a Scottish folk song. This is one of those episodes that manages to have very serious moments while still flying off the rails and careening into an abyss. And Leslie Nielsen guest stars. Furthermore, this mystery takes place on a boat, meaning it uses a closed circle trope, which is one of my personal favorites. I also just enjoy going back to Season 1 in general because it was fun watching the series get its footing. We also get some classic Angela Lansbury ham.
Murder, George, murder. Most foul.
Oh, and not just sloppy, inebriated Lansbury, we also get to see saucy Lansbury.
I will show you my Uchi Gucci.
That's the one thing I've been dying to see.
I bet it is, Jess. I bet it is. As we begin, we're greeted by a beautiful woman taking a slow-motion swim. I feel like Moving in Stereo should be playing. You ever have a bathing suit that was both too loose and too tight at the same time? As the woman enters her house, she sees her husband dead on the floor. She wakes up suddenly, terrified.
It's all right now, Pamela. I'm here.
I dreamed I was wearing a horrible bathing suit. The episode actually takes a very heavy turn. The dream was a real event. Months prior, Pam's husband Johnny had taken his own life, and she was committed to a long-term psychiatric facility. Her doctor tells her father that she is ready to be released, and I'm not sure how he came to this conclusion, but okay. Her father decides to send her on a cruise with her favorite aunt, and that aunt is, of course, the one and only, the effervescent J.B. Fletcher.
Oh my God. J.B. Fletcher.
Meaning that yes, this is Jessica's brother, his name is Marshall. It's pretty rare I get to see such an immediate family member. Usually it's one of her many cousins or friends of the family, but this time we get to meet a sibling. After Pam is released, we fast forward to vacation day. Almost ready, just doing my fourth lap around the car. Marshall can't help but annoy everyone with his incessant need to take photos before they leave, and asks someone passing by to take one of all of them.
All right, ladies, lots of teeth.
Okay, I only have so many, but I'll try.
Okay, now just hold still.
Say teeth.
I wish I were coming.
Me too, Marshall. Me too. Wouldn't be Murder, She Wrote without some comic relief characters. Ooh, Liza Minnelli takes a cruise.
Oh, sure, I'd be delighted.
I think they're meant to be Laverne and Shirley types. They miraculously make their boat even though it is clearly sailing away. As Jess and Pam are strolling around the deck, Pam runs into someone and experiences a little bit of romantic chemistry.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I can't see in these glasses. After a visit to the purser's office, Jess comes back to find Pamela using a new blending technique with her own tears. Jokes aside, this is a really hard-hitting moment for the show. Pamela brought Johnny's letter left when he took his own life, and she and Jess have a really sentimental moment talking about it. She tells Jess that Johnny was adopted and a few other important details she found out just before he passed. Pamela blames herself for not knowing more about her late husband's life and praises Jessica's relationship with her late husband Frank, to which she responds,
You can be married to someone and think you know them intimately. And then
you read their browser history. Pamela wants to share Johnny's letter with Jess, and as she begins to read it, someone knocks on the door. It is Ramon, and he is into Jess.
I'll flip you for him. Heads I lose, tails you win.
Ooh, get it, girl. Pamela is upset to read a card sent with a bottle of wine addressed to Pepper, a pet name only Johnny called her. At dinner, Jess is greeted by George Reed and his wife Andrea. She was the one who took the picture earlier. George recognizes her as the famed mystery writer and introduces himself briefly. As they leave, Pamela is shocked when she finds a special in the menu that was Johnny's favorite meal, one that she had made up.
Whose idea was that?
Why, no one's. This must be someone's idea of a joke.
We would never serve such drivel. It's clear that someone on the boat is harassing Pamela, and Jess is determined to find out who. It's time for some classic J.B. Fletcher snooping. She goes to the purser's office to see who sent the wine.
May I see that?
Sure, we show confidential records to anyone.
I'm going to keep this.
As Jess conducts scientific experiments on the wine, Pamela is enjoying a nightly walk. Someone begins calling out her nickname. Salt, is that you? Several minutes later, Jess is trying to find her.
did you happen to see a young woman pass this way? It's my niece. She's very pretty, blonde.
Ooh, would we call that blonde? There is a scream and Pamela is found at the bottom of a staircase. My love. My niece! The captain visits so he can hear Pamela's story again. His responses are very skeptical and Jess is over it.
I think that you and I should speak privately.
Ooh boy. Jess shows him Johnny's letter compared to the note they were given, then urges him to test the wine.
What? Poison? Mrs. Fletcher.
Best acting Leslie Nielsen has ever done.
What?
Jess, being very savvy and observant, says they must have been followed onto the ship, and that narrows the list of likely suspects down to anyone who booked after them.
Let me take a look at my records.
Do you like the Beatles? Pamela is put under 24-hour surveillance, and it's not exactly discreet.
You're not serious. A bodyguard?
Relax and enjoy him.
Look, I know you just lost your husband and you're questioning your own sanity, but get on that D. Jess asked Pam if there was someone in the family that maybe headed out for her, maybe his parents, but they had passed. This leads Pam to tell Jess that months before his death, his biological mother reached out to him wanting to meet. As they are chatting, cute guy Russell approaches to ask Pam how she is doing, and Jess slyly asks him to join.
Oh dear. I've got an appointment.
With Ramon.
My Uja Gorge.
Jess calls her brother to fill him in, and he also has some news.
Probably doesn't mean anything, but Pam's house was broken into a couple days ago.
How in the world would that not mean anything? What is wrong with you? Jess starts to consider that the person harassing Pam could be Johnny's real mother, which puts her in an age range that only leaves a few suspects left. The two comic relief women and Mrs. Reed, the one Jess and Pam had met earlier. Captain Incredulous suddenly wants to be of some help and tells Jess to talk to the purser, Diane, who fits the age range and took the job on the cruise on very short notice. Ramon slides on over to Jess with a special delivery, and yes, I do mean a literal package and not his hoochie coochie. He invites her to do some dancing and a little something extra later on. Poor Pamela is once again victim to another horrible prank.
Please report to the purser's office. Passenger Pepper Crane.
The purser says somebody sent her a telegram, and after reading it, Pam passes out once again. I really do feel bad for her. She's already traumatized from her husband's death, and now some deranged stranger is threatening her on her vacation. I just want her and cute nerd guy Russell to have a new life, damn it. Jess and Captain Daniels talk to Diane. Turns out she took the job on short notice to get away from a troubled relationship, and that the sender of the telegram was anonymous. Ramon stops by to update the captain on something, and he and Jess share a look. After Jess is able to clear Diane's name, she is also able to clear the two silly secretaries. That only leaves one more person, Andrea Reed. She runs into her husband George, and they both find her dead in her cabin, an open pill bottle nearby.
Here's the culprit.
Let me guess, barbiturates?
Barbiturates.
It's always barbiturates. Clutched in Andrea's hand were photos of Pam and Johnny, and in her suitcase they found Johnny's birth certificate, proving that she was in fact his real mom. This is later confirmed on a phone call made from Marshall, who was looking into it back on land. Honestly, this is a strangely good story for Murder, She Wrote. Usually they're way more cliched and goofy and rely heavily on Jess's investigation, but this one actually manages to have some good storytelling and a few twists I really didn't see coming. Mr. Reed gives a sob story about his wife becoming more and more agitated, trying to justify his wife's reason for taking her own life. Jessica is having absolutely none of it because she knows this guy's a scumbag and the murderer. Jessica confronts him, saying she hopes they find the private detective who took the candid photos, and George insists that Andrea took them because she was an expert photographer. Oh really?
Which buttons?
Jessica goes hard on Captain Daniels, trying to convince him to detain George Reed, but he's resistant because he doesn't want to risk his reputation by accusing a passenger of murder.
He had motive.
Oh, good God, woman. At this moment, I have motive for killing you.
Oh, fuck no. You do not mess with Jess. I don't care how charming you are.
But
Back in his room, George reflects on his new fortune he's inheriting from his late wife. Suddenly, Jess shows up at his door and she is drunk.
Alas, what do I find? Nothing but dark reflections of villainy.
Oh god. Okay, she's obviously not really drunk, but she seems to be convincing George she is. She tells him she has proof and shows him the awful photo Andrea took on the dock, then says she'll be showing it to the police. George begins to freak out and asks her to come inside for a drink, probably thinking he could silence her in her vulnerable state, but Jess makes a run for it. I don't know why he doesn't just bolt after her. He had to stop to dress for the weather. I gotta put on a light jacket. He catches up with her and attacks her from behind. However, it's not Jess at all. It's cute nerd guy Russell incognito. Pam snaps a few pics as proof and George is defeated. The captain joins Jessica one last time to tell her how very correct she was. He explains that George was attempting to make his wife look crazy as though she were stalking her daughter-in-law, then took her own life so he could inherit her millions. I have no idea how he got all of this information. Maybe he did some private interrogation, but he is now fully educated on the situation and very impressed with the sting Jess concocted. He then asks her out for dinner.
Would you do me the honor of dining with me this evening?
Man, Jess gets all the dates. Okay, final thoughts. You know, I really enjoyed this episode. It was serious in the appropriate places, and it never got disrespectful when it came to discussing Johnny's death. And because of that, there were some genuinely heartbreaking moments for Pamela. Even though Murder, She Wrote is a murder mystery series and people die tragic deaths all the time, I never feel sad in a genuine way, not really. Cozies are set up that way, with less emphasis on the tragedy and more on the characters and settings, so I'm not trying to paint myself as cold-hearted or desensitized. This genre of mystery just doesn't linger on the sadness and unpleasantness of the murders, and the show is always so cheesy and goofy that any darker elements are swept under the rug, but this episode was more balanced. When it goes sad, it goes really sad, and when it goes goofy, it does this.
I've come to look the dragon in the eye, searching, as it were, for some sort of remorse.
I always appreciate it when Lansbury brings out her exaggerated theater acting. As mentioned before, I really like the setup on the boat and the lineup of suspects. It was very Agatha Christie, except campy. Jessica was exceptionally proactive in this case, perhaps even a little pushy. She was very aggressive with the captain, she was continually trying to set up Pamela, and she kept insisting that people talk to her or do certain things. She was definitely in control. She won't go down with this ship, and she won't put her hands up and surrender. I love her moments with Ramon as well, because it really seemed like she wasn't against the idea of a fling with this mustachioed hunk whose accent wavers between Italian, French, and Mrs. Doubtfire.
My Ucha Gorge.
And in general, the story was good, slightly convoluted if you're not paying attention, but overall it was engaging, thrilling, and had Leslie Nielsen in a captain's uniform, so I can honestly say this episode is worth a watch. If you have an episode of Murder, She Wrote you are dying to see me cover, please leave a suggestion in the comments or reach out to me on Twitter. I love reading your opinions on this show. And until then, happy sleuthing. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching my video on Murder, She Wrote. If you want to watch a few more, I have plenty, but first I want to give a hearty thank you to my patrons who help me keep this channel going. If you're interested in making it rain on my channel, please consider donating a few bucks, and if not, likes and shares are a huge help at no extra cost. If you want to watch more of my videos, I have a couple suggestions. On the right is the very first episode of That Time on Murder, She Wrote. I had a ball doing it. And on the left I have a retrospective on Columbo. Always a treat. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.